Hello there. I wanted to make a short video about ethics in magic. This is a bit of a hot potato really, because ethics means different things to different people. And of course there's more than one magical path, there's many different paths. And some are tied to religion and some are not. So there's a lot to unpack there really. My own self, I'm a pagan and I'm a Druid, although I was formerly a Roman Catholic in my youth. So I come from a background which obviously has a set of ethics, Christian ethics, and some of that I've retained in my current life, although I don't actually believe in the Christian God or in Jesus as the Son of God. He would be, I suppose, a prophet in my book, and one who had a lot of wisdom. Although I think a lot of what is found in the both the recognized Bibles and the apocryphal Gospels is actually got very little to do with Jesus the man, if he did exist, and is probably cobbled together from all kinds of different sources to make a sort of new mythology for Christianity. That's just my personal opinion, but a lot of the ethics I found interesting, and I quite like, particularly the Gospel of Thomas, which is not part of the official canon. And I've also found an attraction to Buddhism and the work of the first Buddha, Gautama Siddhartha, a book called the Dhammapada, which quite gently explores human behavior and morality without being particularly dogmatic or lecturing, which is something, again, I like. And I'd also be quite fond of Taoist thought, which is very similar to the Druid path in many respects, I find. So personally, I think the first step in learning any kind of magical art should actually be a grounding in ethics. There's various different schools of thought on this, and some paths will be more concentrated on things like spell work and learning the practicalities of doing magic. However, I think all of this needs to be underpinned by a very strong ethical base, because obviously magic is a tool from which you can manipulate reality, manipulate events, and change your own self. So if you don't really have a grounding in your own morality, then it makes you very ambivalent, and perhaps you could be prone to doing things that are very ethically questionable. So my own path has been very much grounded in that. My own Druidic study, that was a very significant part of my study, and in fact it was only towards the end of my studies that actual magical exercises, as opposed to things like inner work and journeying, became more prominent. So I think that was a very good idea, that the actual practical nuts and bolts of performing magic are left until you have a good understanding of the whole subject matter, a good understanding of yourself, a good understanding of ethical behavior and morality in general. Of course, what is ethical depends on the person. So you often see an overlap now between politics and religion, which is rather strange, considering there's been a huge effort over many, many centuries to separate the two, to separate the world of politics away from religion. That's particularly true in Christianity, where the Catholic Church in particular had huge control and political influence in the past. So we ended up with a Western secular society. In some other societies, such as a good example being Iran, which is a Shia Muslim theocracy, the government is a religious government. You also have certain countries that have a Buddhist religious government. And I can't think of an example of a Christian country that has an actual overtly Christian government. Perhaps the closest to that might be Poland. Anyway, so what has generally happened over the last few hundred years is a push away from religious and political institutions being joined together. And I think that's a very good thing, because I do think we need religious freedom. And I also think we need political freedom, so that people are free to pursue whatever religion or whatever political path they want. Obviously within limits of following the law and not victimizing or being hateful or murderous towards other groups. That's very important. And for that reason, I very much believe in secular politics and a separation between religious bodies and the state. And one thing I've noticed, particularly in the pagan community in the last 2 decades, is a move away from that, with pagan people getting more and more involved in politics and sort of dragging politics into pagan religion, which I personally think is a mistake, because I don't feel it's beneficial to end up with religion being coupled back to politics again, like it used to be before. That will end up with corruption and a form of totalitarianism, I believe. And to me, politics is something that is private and something that doesn't have to be connected to your religious beliefs at all, which are also can be private if you want. Of course, people are free to have complete openness about both their politics and their religion if they so want. I have no problem with that. I would be very much a libertarian, and within the limits of law and ethical behaviour, I think people should be free to do what they want. Personally, I would be regarded as a left-wing libertarian, I suppose. I did one of these tests, which you'll find in the description below, where it shows where you appear in a quadrant. So I found myself quite far on the left-hand side, but very, very much in the libertarian zone, which basically means that I do not like big government. I do not like controlling and totalitarian governments of any form. I don't believe in centralization, and I do believe in people being free to do whatever they want with their lives, provided they don't cause harm to other people. So that would be mean basically that I detest both communism and fascism, because both are totalitarian forms of government. That's something that maybe makes me unpopular in certain quarters, because we've now got quite a large segment of society that is extreme on either the left or the right. And I suppose I would be considered somewhat old-fashioned in my views by many people today. But that doesn't really bother me. I'm happy for people to believe whatever they want to believe, so long as they don't try and force it down other people's throats. That's okay with me. But getting back to the magic, I do think it's extremely important that people study ethics to underpin their training, because when you learn certain techniques, certain skills, they can actually be abused. They can be used in a harmful way against other people you disagree with, perhaps. And there's an ethical conundrum about how you deal with other people. Just because you disagree with someone, does that necessarily give you the right to try to stop them from doing what they want to do, or try to harm them or damage them or curtail them in living their life? I would say in 99% of circumstances, no, you don't have a right to do that. Perhaps if someone is causing genuine harm, endangering people, behaving in a extremely hateful, dangerous or murderous way, then yes, that would be acceptable. But other than that, in those extreme cases where people are in danger, I don't think we have the right to use magical skills against people simply because we don't like them or we don't like what they have to say. So, anyway, if you're interested in this subject, I would suggest a good place to start is looking at the philosophy of ethics down the ages. Probably a good place to start is to go back to the ancient Greeks. And there's also obviously a lot more recent philosophy that's of interest as well. Immanuel Kant would be one that's worth a look. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say on this subject, and I would strongly advise anyone interested in magic to explore the world of ethics before they get involved in actually the practical side of spellcraft or anything like that. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed that. Bye-bye.